Scott.
We're good? Okay. Meeting is called to order. The time is 7 o'clock. Public portion of the meeting begins. The New Jersey Open Public Meeting Law was enacted to ensure the rights of the public to have advance notice of and to attend meetings in public bodies at which any business affecting their interests is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the provision of this act, the Business Administrator Board Secretary has caused notice of this meeting to be published by having the date, time, and place thereof posted on the bulletin board of the municipal building, communicated to the Herald News, the Record, and filed with the clerk of the Borough of Hawthorne. Roll call, please.
Mr. Carr.
Here.
Mr. Clivio.
Here.
Mr. Doyle.
Present.
Ms. Arentrout. Here. Mrs. Mulkey Coulson.
Here.
Mr. Palusa is absent. Mr. Shortley is absent. Mr. Totaro.
Present.
Mrs. Goff.
Here. Please stand and join me for the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Meeting regulations. During each regular meeting, 2 opportunities are provided for citizens to ask questions and to make comments during the first opportunity early on the agenda. The meeting is open to the public for the purpose of addressing items listed for approval on this agenda only. The second opportunity occurs just prior to adjournment, when citizens may address any subject matter that is pertinent to and or directly related to the operation of the school district. Persons wishing to speak must, upon being recognized, rise, state their name, address, and subject matter. Comments and questions shall be addressed to the board president or presiding officer and should be limited to 5 minutes per person. The board may or may not respond to issues raised by members of the public at the time they are raised, but will provide a response if and when appropriate. The board asks that members of the public be courteous and mindful of the rights of other individuals in speaking. Please note that the board will not respond to comments regarding students or board employees in light of the privacy rights held by those individuals. Moreover, the board discourages comments about such individuals and will not be responsible for such comments. Members of the public who choose to speak during the public session should carefully consider their comments, since they could be held personally liable for any statements they make. Finally, please note that in accordance with district policy, the board will not officially comment or respond to any matter mentioned unless it can confirm the matter has first been brought to the attention of the appropriate school personnel in an attempt to resolve the issue. Public be heard, agenda items only. No one has approached, so approval of minutes, June 11th, 2024, regular meeting, public and private.
Motion. Second.
Motion by Mr. Carr, seconded by Ms. Arentrout. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Carr.
Yes.
Mr. Clivio.
Yes.
Mr. Doyle.
Yes.
Ms. Arentrout.
Yes.
Mrs. Mulkey Coulson.
Yes.
Mr. Totaro.
Yes.
Mrs. Goff.
Yes. Correspondence. Dr. Sprito. I don't have anything, sorry. Okay, Dr. Sprito, your report.
Okay, thank you. All right, so a few things to share, and I'd like to start with a little special recognition tonight. So I want to start just by recognizing Mr. Bruce Reicher, who's here with us tonight. I'm pleased to be able to talk about our former Board of Education member, Mr. Reicher. Bruce served on the Board of Education for over 10 years. Actually served on the board that hired me 10 years ago. But during that time, Bruce was an active member of our Curriculum Instruction Committee, as well as other committees. For the Curriculum Instruction Committee, he was a staunch supporter of our technology integration throughout the district. Bruce played a significant role in the implementation of our one-to-one initiative, which was implemented after our referendum back in 2019. And Bruce, like I said, was a big part of that. Bruce was also an advocate for our middle school drama performance, which we brought back thanks to Bruce's efforts. And of course, many other curricular and program initiatives. So tonight, we'd just like to take a moment to recognize Bruce for his service to this board and present him with this certificate, which was shared by the New Jersey School Boards Association, which is called the Milestone Award. And it says in gratitude of 10 years of dedication to the children of Hawthorne, Passaic County, and the state of New Jersey. I'll just end by saying, Bruce, that we appreciate your many years of service. Obviously, you brought out a large crowd tonight, so we're glad to see that. But want to thank you for your many years of service to the board and the students and families of Hawthorne. Congratulations on completing 10 years. And we miss you up here, I'll say that. All right? Congratulations.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Bruce.
Congratulations.
Okay, in terms of my other items that I'm going to discuss tonight, just referendum update. As the board is aware, we are in the process of completing our final referendum project from our 2019 referendum. Right now, there's work going on at the high school, some asbestos removal, which is the final project of this 2019 referendum. They are anticipated to be completed at the end of July, and then we'll be moving our staff back into the building. But that will be it. That will culminate our many years of hard work and a lot of positive additions to our school district. I want to update everybody on the Booster Club brick sale. As you know, we started that entryway thanks to the Booster Club and their efforts. And I want to just recognize Chris Warner, who was an integral part of that as well. But we've installed our first round of bricks, and we just received, I should say, approximately another 70 new bricks that are engraved, and will be installed in the coming weeks. We're waiting for the landscaper to get back to us so we can install those new bricks. But that will be an ongoing fundraiser for our Booster Club. So there are plenty of spaces there for additional bricks if anyone's interested. We have information on our website. If you want to just call the board office, we can get you the flyer as well if you're interested in purchasing an engraved brick for that athletic entryway. All right. I want to remind everyone that we have moved away from the www.hawthorne.k12.nj.us, and we're now using www.hawthorneschools.org. So just remember that our new website is located there, as well as our email addresses are using hawthorneschools.org. The last item before we get to our presentation is just I want to remind the board that we're preparing to make the move to our new board office across the street. Our goal is to transition in mid-August. When we do make the move, there may be a day or two when our service is down because of fiber from this building to that building. We have to wait for when we move for them to terminate the fiber here and connect it there. So there may be a day or two where we're offline, but we'll keep everybody apprised of that transition and any possible downtime that we may have. Okay, and finally, and I'm going to ask Dr. Trebona to join me in this presentation. So just before we get to Dr. Trebona's presentation, I just want to share that QSAC, which is the Quality Single Accountability Continuum, is something that's conducted in all school districts throughout the state every 3 years. And they evaluate 5 key areas: instruction and program, fiscal management, governance, operations, and personnel. And districts have to earn a score of 80% or better to meet the requirement of QSAC. It's a very lengthy process that required, I can tell you that we were required to submit over 700 documents that were, have been done or completed over the last 3 years. The process began in the fall, sometime around late October, early November. It continued into the new year, and in February they conducted, the County Office of Education conducted an in-person review. And on June 27th, we received our scores in each of the areas. So I'll just quickly share that in fiscal management, we received a score of 94. In governance, we received a score of 94. In operations, we received a score of 92. And in personnel, we received a score of 100, meaning that we met all of the DPRs listed in personnel. Instruction and program, we received a score of 79. And this is where I'm going to ask Dr. Trebona to give some more specifics, and her and I will kind of explain the background behind that score and where we go from here. All right? So, Dr. Trebona, if you wouldn't mind jumping in, and then, like I said, you and I will.
Good evening, everybody. So as Dr. Spirito said, these are our scores. The biggest area to note is that in order to meet the state statute, you need to achieve an 80% in each of these areas. So as you can see, we are 1 percentage point away from that in our instruction and programming. So we felt the need to kind of go into a little more detail to explain where these numbers came from. There we go. As you can see, IEP is comprised of 100 quality points. Of those points, they're divided into 16 different areas. 1 through 7 adds up to 60 points, and that is controlled based on student test scores, student growth, absenteeism, graduation rate, things that are beyond our control. They're all controlled by the students. 8 through 16 are our curriculum and instruction, our performance reporting, our tiered system of support, meaning our intervention and referral services and how we support struggling students. As you can see in the areas that we control, 8 through 16, we scored all possible points in each area. We scored 6 out of 6 in performance reporting. Our curriculum for all subject areas scored a perfect score, so we earned 28 out of 28 points. And our tiered system of support, the review of our intervention systems that were done for our students K through 12, scored 6 out of 6 points. We scored 39 out of a possible 60 points in the student-controlled section. So we were 1 point short. Since we had our 40 points in our controllable area, we needed a minimum of 40 points to get that 80. So I want to go a little deeper just to show you where that score. Do you remember what I do?
Not sure.
Oh, there we go. To go where that is. So within this, each of these 7 indicators are listed down. Obviously, there's ELA performance. What that does is it takes our data of our 2022-2023 testing data that was released to the state, the NJSLA data, and it gives us a proficiency rating. Our proficiency rating was a 50.2. Based on that, we had 50% proficiency in ELA. We were slightly below the state average of a 51.3. So yes, we have areas to grow, but it's, as you can see from this, it's not only a Hawthorne problem, it's a state problem. So we're trending slightly below the state, but we're on par with the state. Being that we were at a 50% proficiency rate, our quality points were 50% of the points awarded. Therefore, we only were awarded 3.8 of the possible 7.5 points in that category. Math proficiency, which has been an issue that we've been working on and we're trending forward with, is still slightly below the state at a 30%, where the state's only at a 37% proficiency rate. So again, we're slightly below, we have work to do, but the board needs to know that it's not only a Hawthorne problem, it's the state only has a 37% passing rate or proficiency rate in math. Science performance, the science test is given in grades 5, 8, and 11. 3 times, once in elementary, once in middle, once in high school. The state proficiency or state passing rate is 24.9. Hawthorne was only at 9.4. That really hurt us. Out of the 5 points, we only scored a half a point. But what we're trying to advocate for in my committees on the curriculum level is that if there's only 24% of the state passing this test, or only 30% of the state passing a math test, or only 50% of the state passing an English test, there has to be something with the test and not only the students that are there. That is the area that really hurt us to achieve towards those 60 points. In the student growth, we were 66%, so we are continuing to show growth in Hawthorne from post-pandemic, 21, 22, 22, 23, and 2021. Our growth is increasing. We're making those gains. They're little gains, but we're going in the right direction. And that earned us 9.9 out of 15 points, more 66% of the points. Our graduation rate, again, 89.4. So, and what people don't understand, that does not mean that 11% of our people did not graduate in a senior class. Graduation rate has a 4-year cohort and a 5-year cohort. So special education students were required to educate until they're 21. So if they don't graduate if they don't graduate within 5 years from their program, which our Bear Crate program gives them an additional 4 years, they are held against us in a graduation rate. That's just the way the numbers work, and we would never graduate our children out if they're not prepared to be there. We would never want to not have them go to the Bear Cave, which is a great program, just to get our graduation rate to be 100%. And our school quality rate was well above the state, 87% versus an 83%, and that's basically chronic absenteeism. That's not an area or an issue that we deal with in Hawthorne, and we scored 8.7 out of 10 points. So yes, we ended up at a 38.6 in our total quality points for that, rounded to a 39. We were 1 point shy. what I think is very important for the board to hear, we have work to do, and I stand up here multiple times a year and I tell you and I share with you where we're going and the progress we're making, and it's slow progress, and we took a step back like everybody else after the pandemic. But what we're advocating for is that if the state were scored based on their scores, they also would not pass QSAC, and I think that's something that needs to be heard publicly, is that we're getting graded on a scale. If you go back to a classroom or a college, if your highest percentage or your average is a 50, that's where you build in your curve. That's where you do it so you have a bell curve so that you have your two extremes. This is not a typical bell curve, and the state also would have failed the INP section and not achieved an 80% with the scores that I presented here.
And I can just, if I could jump in, I don't mean to interrupt.
No,
Dr.
this
Brown,
is-
but I could tell you that the state, just this week, there's a proposal on the floor to revise the guidelines for INP, for QSAC going forward. So there's a proposal from the Commissioner of Education to make changes to how they're scoring it. So obviously they're recognizing that there's an issue. I can also share that they did a random survey of school districts for QSAC throughout the state, and 67 school districts participated in that survey, us being one of them. 51 of 67 failed INP due to test scores. So 76% of the districts that participated in this survey didn't pass INP because of test scores. So it's, again, it's not just a Hawthorne problem. I don't want that to come across like it's an excuse. I agree with Dr. Giordano. We're always looking to make improvements. There's work we have to do here as well, I agree. But I just want to be clear that this is not specific to us. This is a statewide issue, and it's something that, again, the fact that the commissioner is putting out new proposed guidelines for the future of QSAC tells us that they're recognizing that there's an issue as well. So anyway, we'll continue to address this, and obviously the next step for us is we have to create what's called a district improvement plan, which we will work on over the next month. We'll actually be presenting it to the board for approval in August, and that will then be submitted to the county for their approval, and that's kind of the process that we have to go through. All right, so that's kind of where we are. I just wanted to share the results, the information. The actual letter from the Department of Ed is on our website. We posted that letter with the actual scores and the information, so it is available to the public. But again, we just wanted everybody to be aware of where we are.
I just want to also add something to piggyback off of Dr. Sprito and Dr. Shimona, that we're 4 years out from the pandemic, and they waived QSAC for a few years completely. They reinstituted QSAC last year, but continued to waive test scores. So we were in the inaugural group of people QSAC'd that had to submit test scores. And I don't think they were anticipating it looking like this, because now it looks bad for them. I don't think they have the manpower to monitor this many action plans. I'm gonna be honest with you, which is why I think they're thinking, uh-oh, we should have redone our rubric, which they did not do. Anyone who sat up here with me knows how I feel about standardized testing. I do it for data. I believe in data, but as Dr. Dragona is saying, you have to listen to what the data is telling you. We have done Start Strong since the pandemic started, which is that test that we give at the beginning of the year to see where our students are, but they never use it to adjust the testing. So I don't know, I just don't get it. I mean, what are they taking the data for if they're not going to listen to it? It's truly infuriating. Anywho, I just wanted it to be known, this is the first year they've used the test scores. And I don't think they were anticipating that this would be the result.
But on a positive note, and I'd like to end on a positive note, I want to just go back to the fact that, not only in this area, but if you look at the other areas that we were scored in, the things that we control within the district, things that we've done, the work that we've done, whether it be in the area of curriculum, which Dr. Chimona pointed out, our tiered system of supports, as well as our financial area, Ms. Murray's work that she's done, our governance, our operations, our personnel, all of those different areas, we scored very high, and I'm proud of that. And we'll continue to work to address this area.
And if I can add one thing, and going back to what Ms. Goff said, and in the area of personnel, that encompasses your teacher observation, the feedback, teacher practice, teacher SGPs, and MSSGP scores, which teachers are working on their internal data, assessing their students, monitoring, teaching, and revising. We scored 100% in that area. So we are making strides in the right direction. And I just think people don't realize, they think of personnel as more as like, if you hand in your I-9 card. No, that was more of personnel on like teacher practice and feedback and reflection.
It's also important to note that we have a large ELL or English language learner population, and we have a large special ed population. And while I look at those things as attributes and something that make Hawthorne wonderful and who we are, unfortunately, this test does not reflect that because they have to sit for this test.
Correct.
It is not given in their native language, it is given in English.
Correct.
It is not modified to accommodate them for their special needs.
Correct.
So I think that some of the things that we think of as uniquely Hawthorne, that the fabric of who we are, and we love that we have the population that we do. When you look at these numbers, it's startling, but when you look at the data and look at the different populations, it gives you a clearer picture. However, I just think that it's really unfortunate that this is the number that gets printed, and this is who we become on Niche and on, you know, Zillow and all of that.
Well, it goes back to even what Dr. Lawrence shared about our graduation rate. I
Right.
mean, I couldn't be more proud of that Bear Cave program.
1,000%.
The students that are there till 21 years old, the gains that they make in that program are phenomenal. The fact that they're in our community, getting to know our community, getting to know people within our community, that to me is one of the highlights of our district, and it gets counts against us in our graduation rate, which.
We have so many wonderful
so-
programs like that
Yeah,
other
I
districts
think-
don't, like our ERI program and all of the levels of LLD and the MD and the STEPS and the ARCH. I mean, other towns are sending their students here because they don't have them.
Correct.
Those students, you know, unfortunately have to sit for a standardized norm test that they're not prepared to take. That's infuriating to me, but, you know, I say the same things every year. It's upsetting, but if we have to take the L on the graduation rate every year to educate the Bear Cave, we will, and we will make that clear. And the people that listen and know, you know, they know what that number means.
I mean, we'll have two students from, like you said, from out of
Yeah.
district who are coming to our Bear
Right.
Cave next year, that are coming here.
They don't count
because
for it,
of-
they go to the sending district.
don't.
Yeah, the
But
sending
the
district
fact of the
has to
matter
give
is,
their
they're
data.
coming to that program because it's a
Because
great
it's
program.
wonderful, yeah.
Yes.
And, you know, so, I'm fine with, they wanna knock us at our graduation rate a little bit, so be it.
Right.
I stand by that program.
No, I wish everybody knew all of the things.
And that
but-
was my reasoning or Dr. Spurito, and I really felt that you needed a little more of the detail to understand like where the breakdown comes from and how the scoring is done. And it's gonna be ironic because my next presentation, because I have two tonight, Tamer, can we switch? Thank
Can I
you.
just ask a quick question? I'm
Sure,
sorry.
of course.
I apologize, but going back for 1 second, I think Mrs. Goff kind of answered it for me, but specific to the metrics regarding the science performance, is
Yeah.
that, just because that one's a little bit more uniquely
Lower.
lower, right? What would you say is the defining
So-
components to that one?
As a former science teacher, this test has been in place since 2004 and has never been a graduation requirement. So I was a science teacher, science supervisor, principal before I came into this role 7 years ago. And as a former science teacher, science was always put to the side. Being that it's a federal, it's a state mandate that they have to take a test in science, there is no mandate that they have to pass a test in science. So children sit and they know what they need to graduate. They don't, and they know that science is not one of the boxes, and I honestly feel that children just feel as over-tested as we feel they are, and they don't take the test seriously.
These are they're self-driven, you're just clicking through
Correct.
a digitized test.
Right.
So if you wanna just click, and by that science one,
And the science one is the last one. So
it's the last one.
do 3 sets of ELA, 3 sets of math, and then 4 sets of science, all within a month. And by the time they get to, and again, we put science at the end because it doesn't count. Like, it's not gonna make a kid not walk and graduate. And I honestly feel
And they
that.
really all know that they don't.
They
have
know,
that.
yeah,
All
they
of
know.
them. They like that, like, oh, you didn't know?
You
And
can,
they
like, all the
changed that
teachers are
science
like,
test.
yeah,
It used to be
I
a
need
biology test, then it was an end of course test, then it was an HSPC science test. They keep changing it, and it's only because New Jersey or federal has a science test requirement, but there's no science test passing, like there is for NJSLA and NJGPA, which is what I'm going to now.
Thank you for clarifying.
And they know it's not a graduation requirement, but they also don't know the implications of what that does
No.
to us as a
Yeah,
district.
and,
Correct.
yes, and you talk to any 11th grader, they're gonna be like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Right, and I'm not saying we do it here, but I'm in another district, we have other teachers in other districts up here. There is a certain level of test prep that goes
Yes.
into this. There are, you can take a standardized test prep. I don't know how much, classroom teacher, as a former classroom teacher, I always put more emphasis on that than ELA. I mean, that's what
And
I always focused on.
The problem
to
with
prep.
science is so individualized, especially if you take the 11th graders.
Yeah.
They've taken physics, chemistry, biology, and then they're taking a generalized science test. So where do you even begin to take 3 years of
Right.
information and narrow it down?
Right.
Where at least in algebra, you're taking an algebra test, or in English, you're reading and you're writing, so it doesn't matter the book you're
Right.
reading
You're
about
comprehending, or you're
what
doing
you're
text
writing
evidence.
about, right?
It's very difficult to just throw a dart at a dartboard and guess what's gonna be on there, the prep piece.
Thank you.
So ironically, about 3 years ago, New Jersey shifted again. So they used to have a certain amount of, you needed to pass Algebra 1 and geometry in 9th grade and 10th grade, and you had to pass English 9 and English 10. And what they were noticing pre-COVID was that they were missing the mark with kids meeting the testing requirement to graduate. So in 2021, they released an 11th grade test called NJGPA, which is New Jersey Graduation Proficiency Assessment. Basically, this is going back to the old model back in the early 2000s through about 2012, where you had the HSPA, the High School Proficiency Assessment. And it's given to 11th grade students in March of their junior year. The math portion is based on algebra and geometry, which are given most typically 8th and 9th grade or 9th and 10th grade, and it's based on 9th and 10th grade English. So it's really skill-based, and they have to have a certain score, which initially was 750. After the first giving of that test, the state came down and they lowered the bar to 725, realizing that they didn't have enough people passing. But what the state still has is they have the a la carte menu. And basically what the a la carte menu is if you don't pass this test junior year, if you're deemed, which I'll give you some data, as non-graduation ready, you're supposed to sit for this again, but there's other menu items, like I like to say, the a la carte menu, where you can pick and choose that you met requirements through other things, such as PSATs, SAT, ACT, AccuPacer, ASVAB, yes. So there's other ways that we can have our students meet these requirements. So I'm going to give you data of specifically this test administered to our rising seniors, the data with that. The number of students that are not graduation ready is less than the number that mirror it on the test, and I'll explain that in a minute.
So this is this year's rising senior,
People who are
class
gonna
of
walk in,
2025.
class of 2025. So they take it in March, we get the results in June, and we have until August to present that data to you.
And is this the first year that this is counting, or
No.
did this count last year?
Discounted last year.
Okay, but that last year was the first year that it counted?
Yeah, so the first year it was administered was 3 years ago. This is the
Right.
third administration. At that one, it was a pilot test. The 750 was too high. Last year they came back, they made it a requirement,
But lowered it somewhat.
lowered it to a 725, but still has the other menu options. So the other menu options are still through the current class of 2026. So we still have 2 more years, and we'll have to see what they do for the class of 27 and beyond. So with this, we have it in 2 areas. We have graduation ready and graduation not ready. So what I always do is I like to compare Hawthorne to the state. So in the top bar, ELA, we were 90% graduation ready. The state was only at 82% graduation ready out of our junior class. So we only had 10% of our students that took that test that were deemed non-graduation ready. Of those 10%, we are down to less than 5% that need to find out something, because 5% of those students were able to use the a la carte menu and meet their graduation requirement. For math, we're a little lower, but this is on trend for us again, and I'll speak to this in a minute. We were 48% graduation ready, 52% not ready, but as you can see, this is a little more targeted to where we should be at in that 50% range, not the 30% range, which was the aggregate of our 3 through 9 data, which is kind of, this is a very targeted test where it's telling you exactly what skills are going to be on it, that they align it much more to be able to dig down into the data to figure out where our deficiencies are so we can change our instruction and programming. Of the math people, we were able to eliminate about 10% of that 48%. So we still do have a large chunk that we have to work with throughout their senior year, and I'll speak to how we're gonna do that in a minute. What you can see is, here's our subgroups. So for ELA on the left, our subgroups are pretty comparable, female to male, Hispanic, Latino, Asian, Black, white, or 2 or more races. There's not that much discrepancy. Yes, our Hispanic and Latino is slightly lower, but again, when you compare to the state, it was noted in the state report of this that the Hispanic and Latino population was underperformed in comparison to every other subgroup. So again, this is an area that is not only a Hawthorne problem, so we're gonna have to look into that.
These are people that passed, or these are people that?
These are our passing rates.
Oh, passing rate, okay.
But as you can see, our passing rate, when you disaggregate the
Yes.
data and look for subgroup, is
Yeah.
lower in our Hispanic Latino population than it is our white, Black,
Yes.
and other subgroups. Our economically disadvantaged, again, it's not that far out of the norm. IEP students, that's where we see our dip. And again, as Ms. Goff said, what happens with our IEP students is they get their modifications that are written within their IEP, but that is only accessible modification. So it's not modification of material, which they can have in their normal day-to-day instruction.
Yep.
Their materials can be modified in day-to-day instruction, meaning the text level that they're reading at. The number of questions, the number of answer choices they have. So we're able to support our students to see what skills they have, but then when we sit them down for the standardized test, they only have like a scribe or somebody reading it to them. They're still given the same passage, same questions, same answers as your general education student, and that's where you see such a dip. What was really interesting is that our 504 students are doing well.
Yeah.
They were doing well in ELA. Again, math is our area of lower. Again, you see a bigger drop in our Hispanic and Latino population in our math. Again, it goes to that subgroup overall is lower, and we're gonna have to figure out and kind of disaggregate and figure out where that's coming from and why we're struggling in that area in math.
Do you have the comparison in the math subgroup, direct comparison from the state versus?
No, I don't have it in the subgroup, but what I can tell you is the trend is the same, that there is a large discrepancy. I believe it was, don't quote me on this, Mr. Gennaro, but I believe there was something to a 25 to 30 percentage point lower for overall state Hispanic Latino versus your white counterpart populations. And it was noted in the proficiency state, when the proficiency levels were discussed at the state board level. And
It's
discussed
also,
as a
I
whole.
see a breakdown by race, but not, but like, is ML multilingual?
ML is multilingual, so basically, in the ELA subgroup, our MLs don't have to take it.
Right.
Because when most of our MLs at the high school are first year into it or within their first 2 years in, so they don't take the English test, but they do take the math test. And the math test they were not able to pass, so that's why we have 0
Okay.
passage rate on that. But there is no category for it in the ELA group
Okay.
because they don't take the ELA test if
But
they're
it
within the
clearly
country.
affected the math.
But it clearly affected the math.
Okay.
And again, we're just seeing a lower trend overall. We're seeing that big jump in our IEP students. And again, a lot of the problems is the majority of disabilities deal with reading.
Yeah.
And the math test, why you see such a discrepancy here is not only do you have to manipulate your numbers, but you have to read to figure out which numbers you need to manipulate. And a lot of it is based on word problems.
Yeah.
So it's not so much that if we gave them if we're giving them normal classroom accommodations, we can pull out the numbers. If it's just asking you for a basic multiplication fact, we can pull that out through a modification or accommodation and say, what is 10 times 7? And the kid goes, oh, I know that, that's 70. But now if they have to read about Sally having 10 seashells and Johnny having 7, how many do they have together? They have no clue, because they couldn't get past the reading part.
Same thing, right, with the ML, with the multilingual.
Yes.
Like,
They
a
don't
lot
even-
of our
yeah.
ELL students can do computation, but when
Correct.
it comes to the literacy part, it is negative.
So, and we have internal data where our benchmark assessment, the majority of our ML population is Spanish speaking, and our benchmark assessment through Star Renaissance can be administered in Spanish, both the ELA and the math version. So we have our internal data to know which students have those math skills and which don't, so that language isn't a barrier. The problem is,
Right, it's a barrier here.
it's a barrier when they sit down in May or March to take their test. So just some notable achievements, because like Dr. Spirito said, let's talk about the good. In ELA, we outperformed the state by 8%, and we were most successful in comprehension, and highest performing was basically showing categories consistently scored a 1 in reading comprehension across the board, where 1 is the highest that you can get. So that really stood out. So we're doing very well in reading. What you'll see in the next area is we're lagging a little bit, talk about lagging, there we go, in our vocabulary and language conventions, which return is where you see in your writing skills. So if you don't have the vocabulary to write, then your writing does not make sense. So it makes sense that we did well in reading comprehension. We can read and tell what's going on, but when we need to transfer ideas to writing, our vocabulary is not strong enough and our writing conventions are not strong enough. So that's the targeted areas that we are going to be working on throughout our ELA courses. When you look at math, something good to say is there are areas called major content and supplemental content. Our major content we are doing well in. So the majority, we have major content we're doing well in, and that's modeling. Operations, solving equation, applying mathematical concepts to real world problems. What we're struggling in is the reasoning and explanation. And what makes sense there is when you need to write about what you did. So we're all going back to this core area of being able to express our ideas through written comprehension. So we know that if we score better in writing on the ELA side, we will subsequently score better in writing. And that's where writing really comes across the curriculum when they say, how does writing across the curriculum help math? Well, right here, our data is showing that.
But this graduate, because my son is this group, they didn't have that new math all the way back in kindergarten, which is the why. Why did you pick that? Why is the answer? So that really is a rollout from when they were little to think things through, which I think the grades coming up have a totally different math concept.
So I've been here 7 years, and that's when the shift
Right.
started. So if you take your 12th graders minus 7, they were already in 5th grade
Exactly.
or so.
So I
might
think
not have done the math right.
whoever was that, the kindergarten class that year, that math.
That group should show.
Their shift in thinking mathematically is, I think it will be different, just because that the book, the whatever math we used was different.
Yeah.
One of the areas also we notice, and this is coincides with the state, is what they call the geoalgebra. So basically, you think of algebra and geometry as totally separate ideas, but really there's a whole concept within the standards that's geoalgebra. And basically it's how algebraic functions are used in geometry. Kids are not making that connection. So that's when we dug apart this data and teased it out, and I had shared with the C&I committee a really detailed report with that, and I'd be happy to share with the board, or they can share with the board. All of our standards that need to be targeted are on this geoalgebra, making that connection between geometry and algebra, and being able to express those ideas. So we are looking at hands-on activity around geometric and coordinate geometry and transformation of functions. We're looking at structured practice, that kind of like, people have gotten away from that rote, but sometimes you need that rote practice. You need to have that over and over practice to ingrain a skill in you. And that idea of feedback and reflection. And our math teachers have been working really hard on transforming things to give problems, to come back, to be able to score it based on an NJSLA, give it back to the student so that they can learn what that feedback reflection looks like. Because, and I have a math teacher right here who can attest to that, right? Okay, good. That's the process where we're struggling. It's not the math facts, it's that integration and blending of ideas. That's it. Not that's it, but I'm done.
Dr. Corona. I mean, you could have easily just thrown up something, but the explanation is greatly appreciated. Again, I hope the community is listening to the explanation. Are we putting up this?
Oh, yeah, that presentation always gets, the NJPPA.
That we can put, we posted the letter, but we can
Okay.
add that as well.
Just, I don't know how often people go look for
Yeah, we can
information,
do
but
that.
if the letter's up, I think we should also
Yeah.
put up our own.
And the
No problem.
GPA report will be posted as well because
Okay.
that has to be
That's
posted.
required.
Yeah,
Yes.
and those went home, I got that like 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, you should have, we got
Yeah.
the scores in June, I'm
Yeah.
very big at sending them out. We have our NJSLA scores, are due in district for 3 through 9, around August 26th, so with the start of school, figure you'd get them the end of September.
And just to clarify for the rest of the board, short of the SAT, all of those other a la carte options the district covers, right?
Yes.
We've already covered the PSAT for them twice, 10th grade and in the and 11th grade, and then the ASVAB and the, what,
Oh, and there's
Those
also
things
the
we-
portfolio process,
Yes.
and I'm sorry.
When kids aren't good on.
Okay,
Yeah,
so.
there's a
Or
portfolio
IEP kids,
process.
standardized testing.
So basically, we will administer a full administration of this test and we'll target the kids to help work towards them. We will still have a handful of students, most likely in math with 1 or 2 in ELA, that don't meet this requirement come January.
Right.
So normally around January 6th, 7th, the state opens what's called the portfolio appeal process.
Of junior year?
No, of senior year.
Oh, that's late.
Yeah, so they
Yeah,
take it in junior
Oh,
year.
It's been, we've done
It's
before.
done this.
Oh, okay.
you
correct.
have to have not gotten another pathway.
Right.
So you
That's
have
what-
to
that's
wait
what
it
I-
out.
This
kind
is
of.
not the
I
first
see-
time.
I see what you're saying.
You
Yeah.
have to try all multiple measures.
You can't just say, oh, I got this score on the PSAT, I'm not taking this.
Right,
Like,
right, okay.
You have to sit for this exam to be qualified for the other pathways.
Yeah.
And a lot of times when we get parent refusal letters, we tell them, especially in junior year, if your child refuses this test, they do not have the options to the other pathways, and people don't understand that.
Right.
So you can, if a parent, let's say, refuses freshman year, as long as they're technically, I know, they shouldn't, but
Correct.
they're technically taking it junior year, then that can help them to get the a la carte.
Yes.
You have to take the
Have to take
NJGPA
it.
and fail it.
In order to get-
qualify
Okay,
for
to be
the
now,
other
now I
options.
understand, that's what I was missing, okay.
But in the portfolio process, basically, what happens is the student is given a series of state-approved questions that the district administers on a one-on-one basis over a course of time. They have to submit their answers and we submit it to the county office by May. The county office reviews it and then will pass a student, it's called a portfolio. They have to literally build a portfolio in math based on the standards that the test addresses to show that there's continual progress that
But
they
in
meet
that
the standards.
situation, because it's not a standardized test, they can have their accommodations, modifications.
So they have to take the actual question, but basically, and I may have Ms. Fadden, correct me if I misspeak here, but basically what happens is we put them one-on-one with the teacher, we build that into their math lab or their study halls, now this is the whole big push for the study halls. And if we know that this is standard X, and we know what the problem, the idea of the problem in the core is, we're working on this skill Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Now Friday comes, they've just worked on this skill, we give them their portfolio assessment. They take that, we put it in their binder. Now we move on to the next skill. So you're basically teasing it out,
Right.
modifying like you would for a special ed student, working on one skill, one standard at a time to build this portfolio, am I right?
Okay, I like, okay.
Yeah.
That's good.
And so we've had a 100% success rate with that.
No one's ever not,
Graduate,
I
we
don't
have,
wanna say no one, but
since I've been
yes.
here, we have not had someone not
Correct.
graduate because of this testing
Since I've
requirement.
been here, we've never had someone not
Okay.
graduate.
Good, great, thank you.
It's just, it's one of those things where it's, they used to jump through all of the other hoops and fail,
Right.
and then get
Which
to
is
do it at
sad
the hour,
for
and
RIP kids that they have to fail tests.
I know.
True.
And we have
That's
parents,
standardized testing
last
in
year we
New
had, I
Jersey.
mean, I know I was contacted a number of times by parents who were petrified they weren't gonna make it. Because if you,
Yeah.
Erica, you're right, you're
Terrifying.
getting to the end of the road and you're
Yeah.
thinking,
December
What?
of senior year, and you're like,
Yep.
but working on it throughout and having to fail, unfortunately.
So our kids,
Get it.
our kids to know publicly that we know starting in September that have not met one of these requirements
Yes.
either from SAT are already put into a course to
Right.
begin working on
Start
these
working.
skills through their study hall. Even if they're gonna take the full administration of the GPA, if they pass, great, we take them out of that course. But
Right.
we're already prepping
Prepping.
so that ready when come January, when that portal opens, we're ready to go to get them passed.
thank you, Dr.
You're
Hall.
welcome.
But I did wanna just make clear that this is, not the burden of the parents, we're not asking them to go out and take another administration of the
No.
SAT.
No.
We get everybody through.
Exactly. The district makes it happen, and everything leading up to this point has been covered by the district, PSAT, all of these things, and we really appreciate everything that you do. I know it is Herculean what you guys have to do on that side, and I appreciate it.
Any other questions before I go on? All right, we're good.
Thank you, Dr. Bernard. anything else, Dr.
I
Serino?
do not. Thank you.
Thank you. Curriculum and instruction, Ms. Erin Trout.
Thank you, President Cobb. Pursuant to the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, the Committee on Curriculum and Instruction recommends the following resolutions. CI 1 through CI 8 on page 3, and CI 9 through CI 17 on page 4, and CI 18 on page 5. On behalf of the committee, I so move.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Erin Trout, seconded by Mr. Totaro. Any discussion?
I would like to make a note, I know that we talk about this quite often. CI 3 here on the action items is the tuition approval of Passaic County Technical Institute. This is $2.3 million of our budget. We're happy for any students who do choose to go there, but as it's been noted, if anyone's heard this before, it is a funding issue and a financial issue with the county, the funding formula with the state. Of course, we would love to keep $2.3 million in our district, or even a slight discount. They offered a very small discounted rate last year, right? Was it like $200?
$500 per student.
Per student. No deductions this year, so that comes to $10,864 per student, and 211 students are choosing to go there. So just a note for everyone to hear that.
And that does
again.
not include the busing that we are
Correct.
required to provide.
I didn't know they took that away. That was like a one-time discount?
What's that?
Yeah.
Last year.
No, that's, the original tuition was $11,200. They reduced it by $500 last year, and they remained
They
at
kept
that
it reduced.
$10.
Oh, okay, it sounded like it went away.
No.
Okay, gotcha.
And they
Not that it makes a
got an additional $52 million in state aid, I believe. We got $900,000 taken away. They got an additional $52 million in state aid.
Yeah.
How many students is that?
I'm sorry?
We-
211?
211, it says it right there.
I'm sorry, I didn't see it, thank you.
Yes.
Oh, I see it. Wow. Okay.
And the county puts in $7 million total for the whole county.
Yeah, and right, 7.4 million.
That is the
they
mandated minimum for vocational school from a county. The mandated minimum is 7.2 million, and that is what the state
Hasn't
county
changed
contributes.
for them. They've been
At
paying
least
that
15
state
years.
minimum for, I think,
At least.
17 years, yeah.
It's
so.
a long time.
No, there are 21 counties in the state, right? No other county has this set up like we do, so.
No.
It is a big financial burden on all the districts in Passaic County, so.
Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Clivio,
Yes.
Mr. Doyle,
Yes.
Ms. Erin Trout,
Yes, to all, and I am the chairperson for this committee, but with reservation to CI 3.
Mr. Turco would be proud.
In honor of Mr. Turco.
That is exactly how he would have said it.
Yep.
Yeah.
you would.
Mrs. Moki Colton,
Yes.
Mrs. Zataro,
Yes.
Mr. Carr,
Yes.
Mrs. Goff.
Yes. Right back at you, Ms. Erin Trout, personnel.
Thank you, President Cobb. The following resolutions are pursuant to the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools. P1 through P6 on page 5, P7 through P16 on page 6, P17 through P29 on page 7, couple more pages, P30 through P36 on page 8, P37 through P46 on page 9, and that's it. So on behalf of the committee, I so move.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Erin Trout, seconded by Mr. Carr. Any discussion?
Just a quick comment to highlight how busy a school district can be during the summer. A lot happens behind the scenes during
Yeah.
the summer.
Definitely.
I would just had a question. The P5, the BCBA that's resigning, is that the one that was just hired like a year ago? Or a different one?
So, different one.
Okay.
Different one.
I just wanted to say I'm sorry to see all the I just lost the word.
Turnover?
Thank you, resignation, yes, and also a couple declined contracts.
So what's happening is, I mean, it's just unfortunately the way of education right now. It's a little bit like free agency right now.
It is,
So
I
what's
know.
happening is, we're interviewing people, we're offering them a contract, they're saying yes. The next day, they get an offer from someone else for more money, and they say, well, I changed my mind, I'm declining your offer now, so.
It's very different too, I feel like it didn't used to be like that.
Well, it's
Like, if you
different.
said yes to someone, you were, even if you didn't sign, wasn't worth, you kind of stuck with that. Now it's very, like you said, kind of like a free
It's
agency.
a little like free agency, and
Yes.
that's why you're seeing the
Discipline.
declined contracts. Some of these people we've either approved or
Right,
have verbally accepted, and then they turn around and say, I declined. And it's, I said this to a few of our teachers, unfortunately, it's the old supply and demand
Right.
situation. I mean, I think I shared with the board, and I'll share again, when I was down at my superintendent convention in May, they were talking about total number of certifications awarded. And in a typical year, they would award about 5,000 certifications for teachers. This year, they awarded 2,500. I can tell you, they told us that typically they award about 1,200 special ed certs. This year was 120.
wow.
And world language, they typically award about 175. This year, there were 7 in the state,
That makes me sad.
statewide. So what's happening is people are recruiting other people from other districts. Hey,
Right.
come to my district, I'll pay you more.
Right,
And like I said, they're playing one against another, and that's kind of, unfortunately, the way things are playing out right now. That's why you see some of these decline, because they've accepted,
yeah,
and we've either put them on a previous agenda,
yeah.
and then they said, and they haven't signed their contract yet.
Right.
Then they accept another job, and they say, oh, I'm gonna go.
It's also why seasoned veteran teachers are resigning and leaving. I mean, it's happening all
Yeah,
over. It's happening by
yeah.
me, it's happening where my husband works.
We got a couple.
You're no
Yeah, I
longer
know.
going somewhere else
Yeah.
and starting at step one. You can start at your current step somewhere
Right,
else, or
right.
you can negotiate up depending on what type of certification that you have. So, and for those, the corporate people that we try to explain this to, you have one shot at negotiating a contract, and that's when you go in. So if you're unhappy or you think you can get more, the only way out is to leave. So that is happening statewide. Veteran teachers that have been teaching in districts for 15 to 20 years are leaving to go somewhere else and make a higher salary to retire on that higher salary. So it is, as you said, the Wild West of education. It is very
Yeah.
difficult.
It's
Yeah.
troubling to think about the future for public education.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's really, yeah, that's what's scary. So I do see, our town teachers we've had for so long, taught all of my kids and is now resigning as well. So it makes me sad. I know it's not a Hawthorne thing.
No,
It's not even a New Jersey issue. It's
Right.
all over.
especially those world language, I mean, that certification
That's
is like
like
gold.
7, you said?
7 in the state that they awarded.
Special ed may be 7, you know, that number, but that's really tough.
So again, everyone's pulling from other districts.
Right, of course.
That's literally it.
Of course. So I also feel bad for you guys for trying to fill these now too.
Yeah, it's very good.
And I also wanted to say thank you to the volunteers. There's two coaches on here that are volunteering. That's
We have
always
more than
very
two.
appreciative.
Yeah,
There's
there were a
quite a
bunch
few,
on,
yeah.
on
If there's
the,
more, I apologize.
there were a bunch on
but
the last month.
Yeah, there's.
It's always nice to see that. And, Mrs. O is also resigning her, one of our speech language. I didn't see her, she's at the end. So that's sad, because she's helped my kids over the years. So, that's all. Wish them luck.
I just have one thing, if you don't mind. I just want to point out the P46. As the board is aware, we have partnerships right now with Passaic County Community College, as well as Ramapo College. Passaic County Community College, built that that classroom, like that STEM kind of classroom they built for us, they paid for, and we're partnering with them with numerous classes. Ramapo, we partner with student teachers, and now we have a new partnership with St. Peter's University for student nurses, actually.
So
So we're gonna have some student nurses working with our nurses in district. And again, I kind of feel like it's a little bit of a pipeline for us, right? To help build or fill our openings. I mean, I can tell you, we hired some of the Ramapo student teachers. We just hired a phys ed teacher who graduated from Ramapo, from Lincoln Middle School. So this might be an opportunity, if we do have an opening for a nurse, where we have a connection with St. Peter's and the nursing program. We'll have some of the students in our district now. So it fills a need for them, for their community. Their community-oriented clinical experience, but again, it provides an opportunity if we have an opening that we have a little bit of a connection with them. Like,
Yes, another very challenging role to fill is
too,
nurses.
So just another partnership that, we've been trying to build those partnerships with the surrounding colleges over the last few years.
Where is St. Peter's University?
Jersey.
Oh, cool.
I'm gonna add one comment. I'd like to welcome all the new hires. I know we've talked about people leaving, but we really do have a lot of great roles being filled. Guidance counselors, teachers, coaches, so welcome to everyone that got approved on the agenda today. Also, I'd like to see the part-time paras going to full paraprofessional positions. They are such important roles in our district, so congratulations to those two.
Right. Obviously, those are IEP driven. I'm assuming IEP needs change. Yeah, I was going to say, Ms. Erin Trout, when I stop seeing the full page of hire, that's when I'll start to get nervous. But you know what I mean? Like, July is always a very hectic month for this portion of the agenda historically, because as you know, this is when new contracts and people are turning in resignations, but it's very nice to see that we have so many hires on here. Obviously disheartening to see the resignations, but I mean, I'm in the business, I get it. If it's a better opportunity, closer to home, more money, but we will miss the people that are leaving. Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Doyle?
Yes.
Ms. Erin Trout?
Yes.
Mrs. Mulkey Coulter?
Yes.
Mr. Totaro?
Yes.
Mr. Carr?
Yes.
Mr. Clevio?
Yes.
Mrs. Goff?
Yes. Finance and Administration, Mr. Clavijo.
Thank you, Madam President. Pursuant to the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, the Committee on Finance and Administration recommends the following resolutions on page 10, F1, on page 11, F2 through F11. Continuing on to page 12, A1 through A5. On behalf of the committee, I so move.
Second.
Mr. Clavijo moved the motion and Mr. Doyle seconded it. Any discussion? Okay. Roll call, please.
Ms. Erin Trout?
Yes.
Mrs. Mulkey Coulter?
Yes.
Mr. Totaro?
Yes.
Mr. Carr?
Yes.
Mr. Clevio?
Yes.
Mr. Doyle?
Yes.
Mrs. Goff?
Yes. Mr. Clavijo, back to you for claims.
Thanks again. I had the opportunity of reviewing the bills for the month of July in accordance with the regulating statutes. I make the recommendation that the bill list be approved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Clavijo, seconded by Ms. Erin Trout. Any discussion?
Just one question. I see on the addendum, we, I know we talked about sidewalks at the middle school, what we're paying for here. Is it any way related to that, or it's a separate and apart?
This is separate, correct, Ms. Bowman? On this bill list, this is separate from, you're talking about the new Hawthorne Avenue replacement?
Right.
That's not,
That has nothing to do with this,
That's not-
right?
Nothing to do with this.
That's all I got.
Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Mulkey Coulter?
Yes.
Mr. Totaro?
Yes.
Mr. Carr?
Yes.
Mr. Clevio?
Yes.
Mr. Doyle?
Yes?
Ms. Erin Trout?
Yes.
Mrs. Goff?
Yes. Buildings and grounds, Mr. Totaro.
Thank you, Madam President. Pursuant to the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, the Committee on Buildings and Grounds recommends the following resolutions. On page 13, BG1 through BG2. On behalf of the committee, I so move.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Totaro, seconded by Mr. Clavijo. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Totaro?
Yes.
Mr. Carr?
Yes.
Mr. Clevio?
Yes.
Mr. Doyle?
Yes.
Ms. Erin Trout?
Yes.
Mrs. Mulkey Coulter?
Yes.
Mrs. Goff?
Yes. Policy, Mr. Doyle.
Thank you, Madam President. Policy action items. Pursuant to the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, the Committee on Policy recommends the following resolutions. PO-1 at the bottom of page 13. That carries over to page 14 at the top for 1, 2, 3, 5 more items. On behalf of the committee, I so move. Just Just a reminder to everybody, this is a first reading on these policy items, and it's all minor revisions. I'm happy to forward out those exact revisions to you, and there'll be a second reading next month. So if there are any changes or any questions, we have time. That's it.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Doyle, seconded by Mr. Carr. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Notaro?
Yes.
Mr. Carr?
Yes.
Mr. Clevio?
Yes.
Mr. Doyle?
Yes.
Ms. Arontrout?
Yes.
Mrs. Mulkey Coulton?
Yes.
Mrs. Goff?
Yes. Committee and liaison reports. We'll start with you, Mr. Carr, for legislative.
Nothing to report on this.
I thought you had a long one for us.
No, okay.
That's a bummer.
Next week's show.
Okay, I look forward to that. Mr. Clevio, Finance and Administration.
Thank you, Madam President. The Finance Committee met. The agenda items included the sidewalk repairs. As you know, the borough is redoing the sidewalks throughout the town. The replacement cost is passed on to the property owner. The sidewalks discussed specifically were the ones at Lincoln Middle School. The least expensive options included spot repairs. The decision was made to have the entire sidewalk replaced because of safety, longevity, and aesthetic reasons. The estimated cost is $60,000, which would be partially covered by a grant and maintenance reserve funds. We also discussed year-end closeout figures. These final figures are being crunched out and will be reported once they're available. The audit is set tentatively for mid-September. Our business administrator, Ms. Mary, is in communication with the auditors. Also, a payroll employee portal was rolled out. The new portal is being implemented. The portal is automated and will allow for payroll documents to be accessed without needing someone from the central office to be emailing out individual documents such as pay stubs and W-2s. PCTI, the updated enrollment number was reported, and referendum. Now that we're working on our final project, like Dr. Streeter reported, our bond council will tally up and provide information on a remaining balance event. Once we know if there's a remaining balance, they'll provide instruction as to how that could be used, if any. And that concludes the report.
Thank you, Mr. Clevio. Mr. Doyle will go last with the ring committee notes as well. Ms. Arontrout, Council Liaison and Curriculum and Instruction.
Thank you, President Goff. Our next Hawthorne Council meeting is Wednesday, July 24th. And in the mayor's letters, he did remind of two events that are coming up. On Wednesday, August 7th, the Friends of the Library is hosting an evening with Hawthorne Fosters, which includes our former student rep here, Paul Dewar. And on Sunday, August 18th, the Hawthorne Chamber of Commerce is having the 12th annual Classic Car and Motorcycle Show. So two things that are going on in town. For curriculum and instruction, we met last Tuesday. As Dr. Tribona mentioned, we went over the NJ GPA report and the QSAC presentation. Thank you for the thorough details. Nothing more for me to report on that. We also discussed a TEAMS partnership, and TEAMS, it stands for the Empathy, Equality, Entrepreneurship Mission, with the dual enrollment for credit at Fairleigh Dickinson University. So we're partnering with this for our Latin American Studies course, and students have an option or opportunity to receive credit at Fairleigh Dickinson. We discussed our newsletter that went out to the community. We're going to be doing two more, most likely one for the middle school and then one that covers the elementary schools. And we wanted to congratulate the Flight 19 Media. They actually won an award for the one that they did for us at the high school, right? It's not an award for us, but they won it for something they did for us. So it did highlight our district and the school. And lastly, regarding the standards-based report card update, the district's going to be sending messages regarding the dates of the upcoming meetings. We'll have one at each elementary school. Parents can attend any of the three. It doesn't have to be the school that your kids go to. It's really the best day, I guess, for you. So there's going to be one on October 2nd. That will be a bilingual meeting at Washington School. Then the other meetings are October 8th and October 10th. The meetings will be from 6:30 to 8, and again, parents can attend any of them. And hard copies will be given out of the rubrics for the new grading system on back to school night. So that concludes the C&I report.
Thank you, Ms. Ehrentraut. As far as NJSBA, I just want to let the rest of the board know that we did fulfill our obligation of evaluating Dr. Sprito. We met, I signed it, I provided him with a copy of it. There is one being housed in the board office. If anybody would like to read it, it's riveting stuff. The two members that were conflicted, now that it has been signed, you can read it if you would like to read it. It was filed by July 1, so we did our duty. We rushed it, we got it done. So thank you for doing that in such a timely manner. Ms. Mulkey-Colton, Passaic County School Boards Association.
So we haven't met, there was no meeting since our last meeting. And then I guess they take the summer off. So the next meeting is gonna be September 25th. It's hybrid option again. So I love that, because you can go to the restaurant in person or you can stay in your home. It starts at 6, and then, I don't know if you mentioned this, Abby, but the NJSBA convention's coming up, if any board members wanna go. That is October 21st to the 24th. And that's all I have to report. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Palouse is not here. Buildings and Grounds, Mr. Tosaro.
Thank you, Madam President. Building and Grounds Committee met on July 9th, and the following are updates on various items taking place throughout the district. At the new board office, we have made a lot of progress. Painting of the interior building was completed, as well as the garage floor, I believe, was done as well.
Yes, correct.
We are just now waiting for the architect to update the district regarding the exterior paint. In addition, the wiring of the new fire alarm in the board office is completed. We are waiting for some of the materials for the head and equipment in order to perform the final tie-in testing and programming. Also over at LMS, as we mentioned last month, the installation of the fencing around the generator was scheduled for the end of June. This work has been completed, and we will be repurposing the windscreen from Hawthorne Ave fence to this new fence. Over at the high school, the railings at the rear of the building were completed last week. The railings by the auditorium, gymnasium, and main entrances have begun to be demolished and prepared for the new installation as of this past weekend. Also at the high school, as of July 1st, the abatement project was started. This work is scheduled to be done, I believe, at the end of July. Last month, we also mentioned over the summer at all school buildings, we will be sanding the new and putting down new polyurethane for the gym floors, which has also been scheduled. We're anticipating this to be starting, I think, in the next two to 3 weeks.
Next 2 weeks, yes.
And then finally, over at Roosevelt School, the courtyard project is completed. As most of you already know, this courtyard renovation was completed thanks to generous donation from Roosevelt PTO. There was just one last part with the asphalt, and that has been finalized.
Yes.
And that's concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Tosaro. Mr. Doyle, Policy and the Board of Ed, Board of Rec, Borough Ad hoc Committee.
Okay, so as it pertains to policy, we were gonna try and rush and squeeze a meeting in because we were alerted through Strauss Esme, who was our policy guideline, that the NJSIAA has mandated every school district to come out with a new spectators policy for sports, and we were under the impression that that had to be done and in place for this September, for the beginning of fall sports. However, that was misunderstood, or there was some confusion. It's not going to be enforced until the following season, so there's no reason to rush and bang our heads to put something together. We also anticipate that Strauss Esme will come up with a template for districts to utilize, so we're gonna err on the side of caution, wait for that template to come out, and then we'll make whatever adjustments is necessary, after the policy committee gets together. So that's all I have to report on policy. As it pertains to the roller hockey ad hoc committee, I can tell you that we've had 2 meetings in the last 10 or 12 days. We had one with, the committee met with our attorney. We also met on July 8th, and I'll share that representatives of the board and the borough met to discuss the future of the hockey rink facility, which is used primarily by the Hawthorne Roller Hockey Association, and to a lesser extent by Hawthorne residents for roller skating. Our meeting was a productive exchange of ideas about the immediate use of the facility by the borough and the board's long-term goals for the highest and best use of this site to benefit our students. Our committee expressed an interest in moving forward with a plan that will allow the board the flexibility of meeting the borough's present needs, while at the same time ensuring that any agreement provides the board with the ability to change the use of this site for the benefit of our students. Critical to any agreement is the safety and security of the site and the individuals who will be using the facility. We spent considerable time addressing these issues, and the board and the borough are aligned on the critical importance of these issues. The board will be discussing the essential terms of a shared services agreement with the borough in closed session later this evening, and we anticipate meeting with the borough's representatives in the next several weeks to share the results of our discussions. And that's all I have to report.
Thank you, Mr. Doyle. At this time, public can be heard. In regards to anything dealing with the school district, remember to keep your comments to 5 minutes in length. Go ahead, Mr. Costello. Please sign in on our attendance sheet.
Kind of sad, you know? You get nervous when they know your name. Nice pen.
Oh,
Here you go.
I got that on.
Yeah.
Look, I'll take the click, that makes it better.
E.D.
And
The hockey coach, what do you expect?
stop. Baseball. I guess obviously I'm here for the hockey. And I guess I'm a little confused because I started here 2 years ago. And the reason that there was problems with the rink was safety and cleanliness. We produced the lease, and the lease had another extension of another 22 years on it. So again, I tried not to get into rumors, I tried to be very quiet, but I'm not sure why there is this sudden change that the hockey rink is now a problem for, I'm not sure, whatever reasoning you had for the high school. Obviously you play gym on it, right? Obviously you have baseball practice on it because I have all the pitchers in there, and obviously the track team throws shot puts on it. This is the first year that the lacrosse team didn't practice on it because they played down by the artificial turf. So probably the high school uses that rink more than the hockey team. So I'm a little concerned about your response and your facial recognition, to be honest with you. So I'd love to hear it.
Mr. Costello, hold on for 1 second.
Sure.
The lease agreement that you speak of, that is dated 1996?
Right.
Is that the one?
Mhm.
You said has an extension of 22 years on it? Is
It
that,
was a 50-year contract when we were in 28 years, right?
that is nowhere listed in the document that we have? Is there another document perhaps in Mr. Houston's basement that we've not seen? There is no end date in this contract. It just has a starting date
That's
of
correct.
February of,
That's correct, there is no ending date to it.
Oh, then I apologize.
that's okay. Listen, it would not have been earth shattering had there been a document that we didn't know existed. I
Since we
just
found
wanted
it
to be
first.
clear.
Okay. All right, so I'll extract that out. I'll go back to, again, pure usage. High school uses it more than a hockey rink, and I think that's fair to say, right? Gym goes in there, the baseball goes in there. Like I said, we found shot puts in there. And that was our biggest complaint until the lacrosse team moved down to the artificial turf. They were beating the crap out of those boards, which Barry had to go over there and physically do himself. So I'm curious of what this, obviously he's not gonna answer me. I'm curious of what
Let me, all due respect, let me interrupt for a second.
Okay.
I'll say, and it was stated at the beginning of the meeting by the president, this is publicly heard. We are under no obligation to respond or engage with you at this point.
Mhm.
We did read a general statement to you. We are meeting in private this evening out of respect for the rest of the board members and two who are not here. There's information that they have not heard yet that we will, of course, need to speak with them, and it would be inappropriate on behalf of us to share anything further with the community. So I hope you can respect that. On top of that, we communicate with the other half of the ad hoc committee, which consists of the town, their attorney, the mayor, and the council, okay? That's who we're negotiating with. We're not negotiating with, yourself or anyone directly related to the hockey rink. I just want to make that clear. And I don't know what information, in fairness, that the other side is or is not sharing with you. Okay, I can't confirm or deny any of that. All I know is what we have been advised by our attorney, what we have discussed, and what we have, heard from the other side as well in meetings. And I'm gonna leave it at that. I'm sorry that
But,
there's not
but,
more
it's
information.
okay, I guess the thing that bothers me is when I was up here 2 years ago, the reason is because it was a safety hazard and a cleanliness hazard. Obviously, that hazard has been cleaned up, and now the rumors of wanting 5 years look like it was trying to come to fruition. And that came from guys that work in the Hawthorne High School. So they were right, I don't know. Would it be Barry painted it blue? I'm not sure. And it's frustrating because we're just sitting on the outside getting no information. And the only information we had, again, I'll repeat myself for the 3rd time. The boards were broken, he put new boards in there. The garbage was picked up, that was us that cleaned it up. I know it was supposed to be the town, they're supposed to have the insurance for it. We have insurance for it also when we play hockey. So, and I'll leave it at that because I don't know what else to say. It's very frustrating when you're sitting outside and you're not getting information.
Mr. Costello, let me assure you that the Board of Rec, they did tell us that they shared information with you. I hope that that is accurate. They gave us a permit for use, which we did.
I saw that, thank you.
It's BG1. The dates that are on here, it was for much larger, the permit, but these are dates that don't conflict with events that are going on down there. We were happy to approve the dates when there were not conflicting events. So I hope that this does show that we are not trying to be a barrier to the season this year, at the very least. And again, this is a Board of Rec team, and that's a Board of Rec permitted facility use. And I hope that they're able to also give you some information as well.
Look, the only thing I'll add to that, just one more thing, you hit the nail on the head with frustration. I don't think there's anyone sitting up here, okay, that can argue that the level of frustration experienced by everyone involved in this situation since its inception is just not explainable. It's absolutely ridiculous, but nonetheless, we're going to endure it, and we're going to see this through to the end, and I'll leave it at that.
And I want to thank you for coming up respectfully and not taking the low road and posting things on social media. Thank you.
Last thing to the doctor, my wife is an ESL teacher, Wilson certified, 1, 2, and everything. I'm tired of hearing all that conversation at the dinner table, so I was just trying to make it funny,
You have 4
Good
more
luck.
years, Mr. Costello. Please state your name.
Bart Pikowski. So good evening, everybody. Okay, proud resident of Hawthorne. We moved here 2 years ago. My kid has been struggling to find a sport that suits her. So, as a parent who's played the sport myself, right, it's a way to keep the kids off the street doing stuff that they love. And my kid is passionate about the sport. And it pisses me off, and excuse me, that
We will not tolerate any
Okay, I'm
language of
sorry.
that nature,
Sure, I understand.
especially in front of children.
I understand. It upsets me. I apologize. It upsets me because I take it passionately that, listen, the rink will get fixed. People are trying hard to get the rink fixed. I understand it's on school grounds, right? But instead of going and play other sports, baseball, football, what's wrong with hockey? Just explain to me what's the issue with hockey, with safety? Like you were saying, there's insurance for it, right? There's ways to deal with these things where it gives a kid another shot at a different sport. It gives something to do for my kid who doesn't like soccer. Try it. Doesn't like lacrosse. Try it. Hockey is something that he's passionate about.
Thank you for your comments. I'm not sure if they attend the high school, but the ice hockey co-op is also something that we support with Lakeland, and that's an option.
Yes, it is, but it's more expensive. It's cost efficient for street hockey. Yeah, thank you.
It just, I feel like I need to say something.
Yeah.
Can you please?
The board has not taken a stance that the rink is unsafe. That is not, am I speaking?
No,
true?
if I may just, I know, I don't want to toe the line here, but someone hit the nail on the head, maybe it was Costello, rumors, right? Nothing more, nothing less. I think everybody as a community, which we are members of, for the record,
Right.
okay, need to understand there's a process, a very, very frustrating process for us as members who are part of this committee that have to work within the confines of our obligations with the other borough members and ad hoc committees. We are going through that process. Rumors should not be spread or made thought to be something more than they are, because at no point has anybody up here publicly stated that we are denouncing, not approving. We have not stated anything.
Nope.
Right? We have not stated anything. So we have not said we're not having a season next year. We're not saying we're not permitting anything for next year. None of this has been stated.
Can I add something?
I want to finish, and I'll give you the moment.
You're gonna have to come
Okay?
back up to the mic.
None of this has been stated. So until such time, we should all reserve ourselves in what may be speculation until all the facts are provided. So then as a community, we can take action, one way or the other. And I can appreciate there's a lot of frustration. I want you to understand, many people of this board have spent countless hours, days of my personal life, and I love the sport. Okay? Want nothing more for the sport. One way or the other, whether our grounds or somewhere else. But please understand, we are passionate about it as well, and want this to be done in the appropriate process, which we have to deal with government bodies, okay, and not individuals. I hope I got that across appropriately in a professional way to not make anybody feel like it's anything more than that. Because somehow, some way publicly, it has come out that it's something different than that. And it's not. And I will state that for the record as an individual trustee and not necessarily speaking on behalf of the board. Thank you.
Thank you. And again, I apologize for my approach. I'm just like you said, I'm passionate about the sport myself, and I'm glad that my kid took up the sport. What frustrates me is the fact that there's been multiple occasions where I've walked up to the rink with all our gear, and it's heavy gear, and the rink was locked. A couple months ago, I don't know how long ago, there was no nets. We've gone to Glen Rock, the rink is dilapidated, if you guys have seen the Glen Rock rink. The closest one is Paramus Park, or Paramus Petrushka Park, right by Bergen Regional Hospital. So, I mean, having something in town where my kid can just go safely play a sport that he loves is important to us, and that's why I'm so passionate. I apologize for the way I spoke about it, but
We're all parents up here, we get it.
so that's what frustrates me, is the fact that it's locked. It's made inaccessible to kids.
Well, there were 3 times when the lock was cut, and there's signs down there that state that it really is only to be used with the proper equipment on, and I respect that you did bring the proper equipment, but many people don't.
Gotcha.
And the signs are not being followed. It does say that you need a permit to have a game, which requires the nets, so the signs aren't being followed.
Understood. Thank you.
And we're just looking to limit our own liability as a board. If someone gets hurt down there, when it's not a permitted use, we are solely on the hook.
No.
Us, yes. Whoever said no, the answer is yes. Our attorney said it. If we don't have an open permit for that use, at that exact moment and someone gets hurt, the Board of Education will be on the liability. Your attorney sat in the same meeting. And that is the end of it. That's it. I mean, it's that clear. If there's a permit, it is the liability of the Board of Rec, and then it does fall under the roller hockey rink as well.
I was told, but that's okay.
If there's no
If I
permit.
could sneak up, just to lighten it up, remember there's opening for coaches.
I actually told you. I do.
Just so you know,
Hey,
all right?
listen,
I've
I
been doing
coach
it for
soccer,
24 years,
baseball. I'll
and
join
I got
another
46
sport.
in baseball, so we
I
always
appreciate
need
that.
coaches, okay?
Hey, don't threaten me with a good time.
Right? We need coaches.
Mr. Houston, you have to come up if you want to speak.
I have other things to talk about besides hockey. Do I wait to the end?
No, now.
Yeah,
This
that's
is
fine.
supposed to be heard, all
This is
the
the
things. This is all the things.
Oh, don't be about you, Joe.
He said she followed.
You've already killed half my night, so. All right, instead of writing my name, is this allowed?
Yes.
That's actually a great idea.
Barry Houston, 235 Washington Avenue.
Is this video working? Okay. Okay. Non-hockey business, which is a switch for me. Thank you very much, garbage food. Okay. Concerned about out-of-towners in our schools.
Okay.
I know it's been quite some time, or at least that I know of, that we've done like a
Last year.
Last summer.
real serious where they gotta
Full
come in.
registration.
Oh my
Everybody in the
gosh,
district
I got
knows how
denied. I had to fix it.
Last summer. So-
Erica
So wait, hold on,
Multi-Colson
let me
did
just
not.
clarify. So last summer, we did a full district-wide re-registration, and every summer, any out-of-district student, whether they go to Tech or any other school outside of Hawthorne, they have to re-register every summer.
Meaning a
That's
special ed
annual.
placement. It's every single student in Hawthorne.
was
So you reinvested in that software as well.
We
also have
invested
software.
a substantial amount in software to assist in that process.
Are these pens giveaways, thank you? No, well, I mean, I had the pleasure of living near Lincoln School. And, you know, I've had kids wrestling on my front yard, fighting, whatever, but that's a whole other thing. I've also noticed, I mean, you have a tremendous amount of New York plate cars dropping kids off. You have Ubers dropping kids off. I mean, that just seems a little out of the ordinary that these are people that live in Fort
All I
Worth.
can tell you is we did a full, like I said,
Okay.
full child in the district had to re-register last year. Every summer, any out-of-district child has to re-register every single summer. And like, as was mentioned, we invested in some software last year where we can actually track legally, if we have a report of someone living outside of Hawthorne, we do an investigation through the software that we have. And if you have particular license plates or things, share them with us and we will look into it.
And it's anonymous. If anyone has anonymous information, it's never, we never tell where we got
No,
the
we
information
would appreciate it
from.
though.
Yeah, if you have
I've never been
information, share it
anonymous.
with us. We'll look
And
into it for sure.
I do want to, Bruce, is it?
Bruce.
Congratulations. I'm a little disappointed that Ricky didn't acknowledge my 28 years with the hockey, but. But I'm also disappointed. You actually recommended this guy?
Oh, sorry.
That's all right.
Okay.
That's all right.
Just a couple of things to poke fun at. Unfortunately, the one picture of all the furniture that was piled up at Lincoln for like 3 or 4 months, all the desks and stuff, I don't have that with me.
It's good to go.
But I do have like long grass, you know, I mean, would I be at a turn if I were to cut that grass on Lincoln, that
Take care
strip
of
from
it.
Lincoln?
Our
I mean, it's not long now, it's probably dead now because of the heat and everything.
Our maintenance staff will take care of it.
Okay. Also leaving like utility knives laying around.
Where is this?
What is that a picture of exactly?
That's down by the, your shed by the hockey rink. Alright. It's not there now, but it was for a couple days. As far as the hockey nets, I did get a call from Joe Higgins, and they've been returned. Not sure why they're laying down. But you have them for a month. Now, we have different terms. We have $1,000 a month, $250 a week, $250 a week, or $33 a day. Which one do you want to? Why are you looking at me like that, Rick? I'm kidding, all right? But I am disappointed because I did see them a couple weeks ago, and the way they were kind of like stuff was thrown on top of them. I haven't seen the nets, but I mean, they were kind of like just thrown in your
Where is that a
garage.
picture of?
This is inside that shed that you built where the basketball courts used to be down by the hockey rink.
And how are you getting pictures from inside of the shed, Mr.
I was
Houston?
looking for Mr. Higgins 2 weeks ago. His office is back in the back, and that's when I came across the nets, which, I mean, as much as everybody says I knew about it, I did not know about the nets being taken. And when I asked the mayor, he didn't know anything about it.
I can assure you that Dr. Spredo called the mayor, and the mayor had every inkling as to where the nets were.
Well, they did not know. I mean, like I said, I'm not,
I just want to make it clear, once again, this has become so adversarial and unpleasant for everybody. That's not at all what we want up here, and I'm not sure why that seems to be the desired outcome on the behalf of some in this room. Shouldn't we all be working together?
you gave a nice Kumbaya speech last October 3rd, and I'm extremely disappointed that there was no video of it. I had people call me, when was the meeting that you had your thing?
Oh, I have the video. It's
Well-
right on our YouTube channel.
Well, it's not, I clicked on the list, okay, it's a different YouTube
I
channel?
had it removed. You found me out. I'm removing all of the things that have to do with
Well,
it.
I mean, and even the minutes of the meeting, it was like 2 sentences. You spoke, Alex spoke, Mr. Blue spoke, and several people of the audience spoke. That was the minutes of the meeting. I mean, as far as being adversarial, I mean, Ricky did give you a key, but for me to keep going down there and unlocking the rink, I mean, it hasn't been locked for a couple weeks now. But to keep going down there and unlock it so people can use it, I mean, it's meant for the public.
Barry, that's your opinion. And that's what we're trying to say, and I'll say it again, I'm gonna reiterate, you have to let the process go through because you're taking this from a personal stance on behalf of the team, the organization. That is not the case. That is not the intent. This is not a personal attack at you or the Sun Devils. It has to go through the appropriate process for the desired outcome to weigh out the way we all want it to. However, it's gotta go through that process. We gotta leave it at that, and because every time we keep going deeper and we're saying we're not being adversarial, but indirectly it's coming off that way when we're trying to lay a token down to say like, this is what it is. You can call it, there would be nothing that would make me happier for everybody, because this is how I do things in my business. I get everybody in the room when I want to call that thing that I'm not supposed to say out loud, right? BS, right? We get everybody in the room. Unfortunately, we don't have that ability in this forum to get all those people in the room. But if we did, we were able to maybe talk and have a different conversation. So because we can't, it has to go through the appropriate process, and that's what we're saying again. We gotta let the process go out. But there's nothing towards you or the Sun Devils.
Well, I'm not taking it personal. I mean, like
Oh.
I said, I know it's not, I mean, and I blame the other half just as much, the borough. I mean, I know that, I've heard both sides of the story, and it was disappointing that they treated you guys that way. All right, and I believe when I found this out, I had a set of plans last year, and I gave a set to Ricky just so he would have a set of plans for the new boards. I mean, I don't know why they were keeping it such a secret or whatever, but, and, you know, like I said, that, I can't help that. But in the meantime, we're the ones in the middle and getting stuck. And like Ed said, it's frustrating, you know.
We would agree with that.
And like I said, I mean, we did what we were asked, we cleaned things up. Yes, it was an eyesore, but we were also told that we were getting new boards 2 years ago, last year, and I have no other comment about where it's at, other than you guys met, I appreciate it, and I appreciate that some people actually stood up and said enough is enough, let's get this done, and I appreciate that. But it was last year, actually it's about a 1-year anniversary, with the rink being closed originally. And, I mean, this is a print of the email.
Could you just clarify what you mean by the rink being closed?
Last year at this time, the rink was locked up. And again, I mean, the sad part is,
Do you have a key right now, Mr. Houston, to access? Do you have a key to access the rink?
yes. Okay, like I said, but that hasn't been locked in a while, so which is nice, you know.
But that's not nice. That's not what we're asking, and that's not what the Board of Rec is asking either. The Board of Rec agrees it should be locked when it's not in use. And if you have a key to access it and you can unlock it, and I know that's a burden on you, but that is what the original agreement you handed us says.
Well, I haven't, that was not discussed at the last rec meeting. They didn't tell me about locking the rink.
Because there are people that go in there and don't know how to skate. Can you kind of see where we're coming from when it comes to that? We've seen, and listen, I get it, young girls going with skateboards.
Just hanging out, making out. Like, it's not
It-
even an
it-
activity.
What's wrong with that?
Nothing, but
No,
don't get what I'm
but
like.
Mr. Costello spoke about damage to the boards, and sometimes it's from use that's not appropriate.
Yeah.
And that can't be controlled unless it is under controlled use.
But this is what we've dealt with the last 28 years, and I may have complained about it, but I have fixed it, not a big deal. And the town doesn't get involved as well, we're the ones that do the maintenance and whatnot. They give us some money to keep us happy. Like I said, but it's just, I mean, not to be adversarial,
but I don't know how else you would look at it. I mean, if we close soccer fields, would you be happy?
Absolutely not.
Okay?
But it's
So,
not
but that's not,
closed.
that's not what we're saying. We're saying, right, we're getting off topic here, right? Because there's a process, right? To your point, that's like saying, like, if something was wrong for 28 years, we're accepting the fact that it was okay that we did something wrong. There's something that's come to light, right, that we cannot openly get into discussion about, that we are actively negotiating with those other parties and working through. But there's something that's come to light that is not that simple as just allowing it to be open 24/7. That was not what it was intended for. If you truly understand the agreement, it wasn't. There's legalities behind it. Just like you guys have insurance. I'll give you a better analogy. If you have a pool, you have a pool?
Yes.
Okay, you have a pool. If you have insurance at your home and kids come into your home and use your pool, you, sir, are liable as the homeowner. Well, guess what? It's our home. It's our home. That is a part of the district's property. So there's legal matters that need to get worked through so that we can come and hopefully find an agreement between the governing bodies for us to move forward. We are actively going through that, as Mr. Doyle said. We are trying to find common ground, and we're going to report back accordingly.
I know you are, and I appreciate it. Now, I mean, I know the original agreement doesn't really hold, as my cousin Vinny would say, doesn't hold water or whatever he said. In that agreement, it does say the borough is responsible when it's being used by the residents.
It does.
And that's what, I mean, talking to Michael Pasquale, that's what he told me, that the borough insurance covers it when it's being used by residents, not the Board of Ed.
No, only
No.
when it's through permit use.
Okay, well, like I said, I'll have to give him
Well,
another call.
but with that said, even that is
Right.
something that is being
We'll
worked
talk
through
about it.
right now for the betterment of the community.
And again, we approved the permit tonight. I don't remember a summer permit being taken. We're happy to,
Just to clarify that, there's no games. This
Okay.
is just practice. The
Okay.
games are gonna be indoor down at the indoor
but
facility.
again, if
This
we're
is
able
just-
to provide the permit, I mean,
Well, that I appreciate.
we're not saying no. We're assuming a forthcoming permit is coming for the season. We anticipate that.
Yes.
We've already shared that would be supported. We're not looking to be a barrier to the season. We're just working out, as Mr. Totaro said, the logistics, the legal side of it. That's really what it comes down to.
No, I appreciate that, and like I said, I mean, there was something said at the Board of Rec about, well, if the band's playing, you can't be there, or not playing, practicing, or if girls soccer is down there, they said the scoreboard, I'm like, no, we're not playing games, we're just practicing, so, I mean, it's, but I read your approval and stuff, and that's fine, that's,
Okay.
like I said, I mean, we're crazy, but we're not that crazy. When it's this hot, we don't go down there too often, so. But we will use it on, whatever, based on whatever you put in there, and I appreciate that. But I'll have to talk to Michael Pasquale again and see what's going on with the insurance thing.
Yes.
But I do appreciate all your efforts in getting this deal done. I mean, I heard bits and pieces of it, some official, some unofficial, whatever. And it kind of is what it is, but again, I do appreciate it. Thank you. Sorry about the crack though, 10 years ago.
Any other public comment? Okay. Board members, we will entertain all comments, general, new business, old business. Start with you, Ms. Holton. You were just looking at me, so you got it.
I just wanted to say that I worked really hard to become a board member and ran multiple times. I'm a mom of 3 boys. 2 have IEPs. I'm also a special education teacher. My oldest is huge on sports. And I remember when the Sun Devils was up. I feel like they just started, and it makes me old, but that's okay. And it was huge. And all the boys that played on the Sun Devils were the cool, cute kids. The popular kid. I don't know. It was just such a good feeling. And to go watch their games, and we were like the only town that had it. It was so fun and so exciting. And I just want to say, I did not work so hard to get on this board to say no to our Hawthorne kids. I am not here for that reason. A But I agree with Marco that things are done behind the scenes. I am not on that committee, though they're very good about keeping us updated. But I think, I don't know, I'm speaking for myself, but also I know these people up here in their hearts, and no one is here to stop our kids from playing a sport, or to ruin them, you know, or put them on the street so that they're roughhousing on people's lawns. Because I don't like hearing that, and I have a middle schooler who was probably one of those kids. I also wanted to say something about the registration. I kind of made a comment in there when you were talking about it, because I was denied. I'm like 4th generation Hawthorne. And so I thought that was pretty interesting. I reapplied and that we were approved to continue to go to Hawthorne.
They were very thorough.
It was very thorough. My name's hyphenated. Some things say Mulkey, some things say it's a pain. But yeah, it was very thorough, and I appreciate that because there were a lot of people that we found who were not living in Hawthorne, or whether it was legally or even in the town. So that helps us because that's our tax money. Especially students with IEPs who cost more money. And lastly, as a single parent, my ex-husband lives in New York. Like you basically had, I was like, no, that's mine, that's my kid, that's my kid. So as a middle schooler, he was being dropped off by someone with New York plates. So I'm not saying that these kids are not out of district or whatever. I'm just letting you know from my personal experience, it was really hard to re-register them with this new program. And 2, that makes sense why you'd be like, why are there people being dropped off with New York plates? It's only one child out of however many, but that's it. Thank you to Roosevelt PTO for cleaning up the courtyard. Not only did they raise a ridiculous amount of money, it took us many years to buy a new playground, to tear down the old one. That was all volunteer. But then we also had a couple amazing people take time off their summer to come out, clean up the courtyard, and then repave it. So now our kids have an extra outlet that they didn't have before in a beautiful courtyard. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mulkey-Golden. Mr. Carr?
I'm good, thank you.
Mr. Doyle?
I hope everybody enjoys the rest of the summer, stay cool in this oppressive heat, and have some faith. We'll get through this issue and the next issue and the next issue and the next issue that comes after that. That's all I got.
Thank you, Mr. Doyle. Mr. Clavino?
Just want to congratulate Mr. Reicher one more time. Not only was he with us for over 10 years, but he was very proactive. As Dr. Spirito was going through the list of projects that you were instrumental in, you know, high school choir comes to mind, the broadcasting studio. I mean, just a plethora of different activities that you were involved in. So not only did you volunteer more than 10 years, but you were a proactive board member. So a pleasure serving with you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Clavino. Mr. Docciaro?
I have to echo some of the same sentiments, Mr. Cleo. Great to see you, Bruce. It's always a pleasure. Always put a smile on my face, so congratulations. And just in general, right? I mean, I know a lot of topics have been discussed today, and I think the world that we're in right now, some things are one extreme or the other, and opinions and feelings can get tested at times. But I genuinely do appreciate everybody coming out, right? When you're passionate about something and you have a conviction about something, it's important that you talk about it and you share your opinions to get your voice heard. And we hear you, right? And, you know, it is a process. And sometimes in the moment it could be frustrating. But I will say for myself, I genuinely appreciate everyone who takes time out of their day, out of their evening to come out and show support for something that they're passionate about. So I appreciate you coming out tonight. Thank you.
Oh boy, 3 comments for me.
Go ahead, Ms. Erin Crow.
First, I always like to, when we see in the news exciting alumni stories, we have Ethan Ramos, who's an alumni from Hawthorne. He is wrestling in the Olympics this year, the Summer Olympics. So on August 8th, if anyone wants to tune in, great wrestler from our state champ for the Bears, and he's representing Puerto Rico, so that's exciting. If we could support one of our own, that's always good. Second, I would like to thank President Goff for the great job with the superintendent evaluation. I know it's a lot of work, and we have a great superintendent, so that makes it a little bit easier. But Abby, thank you, because I know it's a lot of work, and everyone doesn't always know that.
Just some
but-
cutting and pasting and typing and.
No, but organizing all of us behind the scenes too. So thank you. And then lastly, to echo on some of the comments, thank you everyone that came here tonight. Similar to Erica, I'm an alumni of this school system. I am the only one up here that's not a parent, but I care about everyone in the district. And as volunteers, we want all the opportunities. I can't speak for everyone, but we want all the opportunities for our kids athletically, academically, their safety in every way. It has been an interesting process, and without getting into any details, I wish that it was more transparent, not on all ends, because of course I'm on Facebook and we see the comments and there are a lot of misconceptions. I think Mr. Houston mentioned he heard from this person this or this person that. I wish, like Mr. Tataro said, we all could have gotten into a room at one point, and a lot of times the fingers were pointed and blamed in different directions, but talking for hours with our group here, it's always been in the best interest of our residents. So I hope people know that. We volunteer to do this. We do want what's best for everyone, including their safety, and hopefully, like Mr. Doyle said, a resolution is coming that will be a happy one for all of us, finally. We all want it, trust us. And that concludes my comments. Have a good rest of July.
Thank you, Ms. Erin Trout. I just wanted to let the board know, and also the public, if you don't have an incoming freshman, Mr. Pfister has really gone above and beyond this year about getting information out to the community as ahead of time as possible. The summer is so difficult. So the last month of school, he put out the freshman orientation date, which is August 26th, very exciting. There is a student time, and then there's a parent time, so I'm looking very forward to that. And there was one other thing I wanted to say, now I cannot remember what it was. Oh, I also want to thank our athletic community they go above and beyond during the summer. We have so many sports teams that are already in the thick of it. Yesterday, football got wet bulbed, which it was too hot for them to practice, and I'm not surprised, but the commitment to making sure they're practicing safely, a lot of communities say they're wet bulbing, but they're not, so it was in the middle of practice and they had to go home. So I really appreciate the trainers and everyone who's involved in all of those things to do and the best they can for all of our students, because it was dangerously hot yesterday afternoon, so they did the right thing, and then this morning they were practicing at 7:30 instead. Again, I do want to thank everybody for coming. I do speak for myself, but collaboratively, we are not coming from a place of adversary. I think the fact that we have spoken about this for so long, we've been accused by some for speaking about it too much and taking our eye off of the ball. But because we want the right thing, we're not making a knee-jerk reaction. We're not saying no, but the fact that we continue to engage in these collaborative conversations with the borough and with the Board of Rec, I hope proves that we are always trying to do what is right. And coming here is absolutely the right thing to do. We are always welcoming to anybody that wants to come and talk and ask and listen. I know we're not normally very well attended. I love when we have people come. People watch, not that many people watch, but please come if you have a question. We are here to listen and to answer if we can. But as Mr. Doyle said, some of this is legally pending, which we are moving into at this point. But again, I hope the length of the time it has taken for us to continue this conversation proves that we are committed to making sure that it's right and it's done right. In any event, I want to wish everybody a happy rest of July. Our students who are going away to college and maybe going before our next meeting, I hope they have a safe college experience, and that is it. So be it resolved that the Hawthorne Board of Education convenes an executive session to discuss exempt matters pertaining to pending or anticipated litigation or contract negotiation or matters of attorney-client privilege. Be it further resolved that Minutes of the executive session will be made available upon determination by the board. Disclosure of the minutes will not detrimentally affect the right or interest of the board, and the need for confidentiality no longer exists. Entertain a motion to go into.
Motion.
Second.
Second.
Mr. Totaro, motion, seconded by Ms. Aaron Trout. Roll call.
Mr. Totaro?
Yes.
Mr. Carr?
Yes.
Mr. Trivio?
Yes.
Mr. Doyle?
Yes.
Ms. Aaron Trout?
Yes.
Ms. Smokey Colton?
Yes.
Mrs. Dahl?
Yes.